Y'all ready to learn everything about my uterus?
We're gonna get into it.
We're talking about egg freezing, what people do to try and secure their future fertility. But as I soon learned, it's not that simple. At first, this was just another story for me.
And so you chose to freeze your eggs at the age of 25.
The Alabama ruling happened on the day of my retrieval.
You are really thawing eggs at a higher rate now.
Absolutely.
But as I continued reporting, talking to experts and my husband, I decided to embark on the journey myself, and let me tell you, it was not what I expected. I'm going to take you through my whole process, but along the way, we're going to talk about the growth of the fertility industry and why you're hearing about it now, how young is too young to freeze your eggs, and the politics of egg freezing.
This potentially could be a roadmap for other states to restrict access to IVF.
10 years ago, only about 6,000 people banked their eggs, but in 2022, that number's up to 29,000, a nearly 400% increase. A few things could be behind this increase. For one, egg freezing had been labeled as experimental by the American Society of Reproductive Medicine up until 2012. And in recent years, more companies have been covering the procedure as a benefit for employees. Without it, the cost to retrieve and freeze eggs averages around $16,000, and that's not even including yearly storage costs for the eggs, which typically runs between $500 and $1,000 a year. And then you've got costs for in vitro fertilization, or IVF, which you need if you want to use those frozen eggs. Getting coverage is huge, especially for younger people who may not be as financially well off.
Hi, I'm Shania, and I am freezing my eggs, and I'm 25 years old.
Shania Bopa shared her egg freezing journey on TikTok to show people what it's like to go through the process at a younger age.
So why 25 instead of 28, 29, 30?
The main reason is A, my insurance was covering the medication costs, and B, this is the youngest my eggs and the best quality they'll ever be in my life. And if I know this is something I want for future me, why not do it now versus wait a couple years?
Experts say it is better to freeze your eggs when you're younger, with a 2022 study showing that people who froze their eggs under the age of 38 had a higher live birth rate than the average patient.
Any cons to doing this in your early to mid-20s?
So I would say one of the cons is if you freeze eggs and think you're guaranteed, you're set up for life, it is not a guarantee by any means. Eggs have a lot they still have to do. They have to survive a thaw, fertilize, grow, be healthy, and that's quite variable.
Dr. Wirtz says she thinks the average age of people who are freezing their eggs will keep going down.
When we first rolled out egg freezing, the percentage of patients under 30 that were coming in were about 1%, and now we're about to 10% of our patients are coming in. And the amount of egg freezing we're doing is increased fivefold in the last 10 years.
But while more people are freezing their eggs to take control of their reproductive choices, politics in the last year has complicated that.
The highest court in Alabama decided frozen embryos are children.
The ruling made it so doctors and clinics could be sued for discarding embryos, which is a routine part of IVF. While the ruling only officially impacted Alabama, for people like Alex Barron, who froze her eggs in Texas earlier this year, what happened in Alabama made her uneasy.
You know, you go through the retrieval process and you feel so empowered and so accomplished, or you feel like you have the security in your eggs. And then there's this decision where you feel like the future is very unknown.
So she's decided to take matters into her own hands.
It has always been and is currently part of my plan to transfer them out of Texas into Pennsylvania, where my family is currently living. I know there's no laws, regulating the eggs currently, but with everything going on, it makes me really nervous to have them in Texas. So the logical next step is to move them out.
Since the ruling, Alabama passed a law protecting IVF, and Senate Democrats have tried to do the same nationally, but it failed.
There is a sense something could happen when you transfer your eggs. I believe that the future of my eggs and there being future rulings on them is more likely than the transfer going wrong.
As a recently married 33-year-old who doesn't want kids just yet, every story I did on egg freezing and IVF was eye-opening. So I decided to explore if freezing my own eggs would be a good idea. And I did the totally normal thing of telling a national audience about it.
And we're going to share all of that right here on Today.
Oh, well,
there you go.
Good for you.
I went and had some tests done and met with my doctor, Lucky Seacon.
So I looked at your pituitary hormones, which are FSH and LH. Those levels were normal.
But she also found something that was not so great.
What you can see, it looks like you would potentially diagnose with PCOS.
Yeah, it's based on 2 out of 3 of the following: having slightly irregular cycles, having polycystic bearing ovaries. So 2 out of 3 are already met.
Check.
Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a hormonal imbalance in the ovaries that can cause a wide range of symptoms, from irregular menstrual cycles to migraines to fertility issues. An estimated 5 million women in the U.S. have it, but it's often difficult to definitively diagnose.
The PCOS information kind of changed the game for me. It made me feel like, okay, there's a real reason why this could make a real difference in our chance at having a family down the road.
But there was something else to consider. My husband and I could freeze embryos instead of just my eggs.
The downside of egg freezing is you don't ultimately know how many of these eggs will thaw, fertilize successfully, and actually make it to the embryo stage. And only 60% of fertilized eggs are capable of turning into embryos. Yes. Embryos have so many cells that their thaw survival rate tends to be higher, around 98%, right?
It's not an easy decision, given the potential political ramifications we talked about earlier and the conversations we had to have as a couple.
If one of us passed, or obviously the event of a divorce, what happens to those embryos? And those are things you have to sign legally as part of the process.
But with my new diagnosis and the success rate of embryos versus eggs, we decided embryos was the right move for us and got started.
Good job.
I started with 2 shots a day, mixed at home, and a blood draw and ultrasound every other day.
I wonder if anyone in that meeting will notice what I'm doing.
But then it up to 3 shots a day with monitoring every day. My right ovary, which is not on screen, is popping. And as the days wore on,
Every step is straight to the ovaries. And bumping around on the subway train, whew.
the side effects, made more severe by my PCOS, became quite apparent.
This cannot be sucked in. It is just a bloat that won't go away. Or some cute little bruises.
So when I got the news they were ready to retrieve my eggs,
I can't believe we're triggering tonight. You did it.
I was thrilled. 11 days after that first hormone shot, it was time.
Your procedure itself is 15-20 minutes. Okay. Recovery is 45.
I said goodbye to Alex.
Good luck with your very easy portion of this.
Okay.
Suited up.
I'll see you in there.
Okay.
Does it sound good?
Okay, sounds good.
And we were ready to roll. The retrieval is a minimally invasive procedure that uses an ultrasound to guide a needle to the ovaries, and a suction device on the needle takes out the mature eggs.
It was a really straightforward procedure. It was really easy to access both ovaries.
Okay. I'm honestly pretty uncomfortable.
Let's get you home.
I think what this could mean for my husband and I and for our future family, especially if we do find out that it's tough to have kids naturally because of the fact that I have PCOS, well then totally worth it. I was so overwhelmed on so many levels, and so I hope that watching this makes someone feel less overwhelmed, less scared, more empowered, more capable. And I think that my message to anybody else would just be like, you are strong, you can do it. Don't quit on day 5 when everything hurts.
This is my egg freezing sharps bin. You put all your needles in here, and you keep it on your counter, and it looks pretty scary. And now that I'm done, those are all the shots I gave myself. Pretty impressed.